RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 1368 sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dini sa Laglayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawan, andang mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
We fly to thy protection, O Holy Mother of God. Despise not our petitions and our necessities, but deliver us always from all dangers, O glorious and blessed Virgin.
Are you a Filipino living in Middle East, Europe, Asia and the Pacific, USA or Canada? You are our story. You are our Filipinos World. The Filipinos World Saturday every 4 to 5 p.m. only here on RPN DXKO 1368 Teleradio, hosted by Agnes Alimbog.
Good afternoon, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and to the Filipinos across the globe. I am your ka-TFW Agnes, and you are watching live here in the Filipinos World. We are broadcasting live from Cagayan de Oro City, Philippines, powered by RPN DXKO Teleradio, and we are also live streaming in Facebook via facebook.com/RPN Cagayan de Oro 1368. And if you are tuning and watching us right now in your Facebook, you may like and share to all your friends and families. Thank you to Professor Cesar Torres from California, USA, who's also watching us right now here in the Filipinos World. And we have a special public announcement. On Monday, March 8th, is a Senate hearing on the Department of Overseas Filipinos. Saga Mikawayan, the President of Reintegration and Development Incorporated of the OFW, will present his position paper. We would like to ask the OFWs to please tune in the Senate House FB page at around 10 a.m. in the morning. The month of March has been referred to the Women's History Month, and 8th March is considered as International Women's Day. With this celebration, let us hear from the Philippine President, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, his message.
I join the entire nation in celebrating the Women's Month. The government recognizes the role of women in nation building and upholding the fundamental equality before the law of both genders. This is why we are working relentlessly to ensure that women have equal access to education, economic opportunities, healthcare, and social services, and growth opportunities. But our work is far from over. Thus, I urge our people to participate in advocacies and activities that promote women empowerment. Let us all work hand in hand to address the needs of women and honor their immense contribution to society. Mabuhay ang ating mga kababaihan. advocacies.
The Filipinos will salute all women across the globe and relentlessly adhere to equal opportunities and rights of women in all aspects. Today is March 6, 2021, and it is the Ghana Independence Day. It is also the National Dress Day. The National Dress Day was founded by Ashley Lauren, who is the founder and designer of the Ashley Lauren collection. This day is about empowering women to celebrate femininity and cherish memories of wearing dresses. It's the women and their stories behind the dresses that make this day so special. Joining me this afternoon is our guest co-host, who is the Executive Director of Team Humanity, the Project Director of MAID, the former Assistant Secretary for Operations of Department of Agriculture, and the consultant to Philippine Economic Zone Authority, live from Davao City, Philippines, Mr. Richard Bong Anyu. Good afternoon, Bong.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Agnes, and to the Filipinos world. May hapon tanan sa atong mga, labi na sa atong mga igsoon taga Mindanao, sa atong mga igsoon ng Muslim brothers and sisters. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sa atong mga igsoon lumad sa kabukid. Economy and combating Philippines' systemic corruption in the modern era. Well, on the first segment, no less than the Undersecretary of the Department of Interior and Local Government, Sir Martin Dino, may hapon, sir, and who will share his advocacy to us on the challenges in fighting corruption on a systemic structure. And on the second segment, the world economist based in London, United Kingdom, Dr. Nevin, will share his insights to the global economy in focus affecting Philippine recovery post-pandemic. Well, may hapon sa tanan o welcome to the show.
And that portion is brought to you by Love Module. We will pause for a break and we will be right back.
Modal manufactures a highly distinctive and exclusive range of interior solutions that combines functional excellence with design appeal. Solutions with integrated, innovative, ergonomic features to well-designed workplaces. Our company is based on the inherent values that shape the core of who we are. It is through our living values that we continue to fulfill the promise of our ideal and environmental design standards. Each and every groundbreaking product we've introduced over the years has been the result of our team's hard work and dedication to provide our absolute best to who we care most about, who is our customers. Whether the job is big or small, our team is used to solving complicated tasks and makes sure to get projects to successful completion. Whether it is local or global. This is why Labmodal is known as one of Europe's leading manufacturers of innovative system solutions for devices used in laboratory facilities, hospitals, and educational facilities. Solutions that can be easily adapted to the growing needs and workflows demands of the future. Labmodal, designing safe.
Today I woke up inside a kaleidoscope. Surrounded by mesmerizing patterns and vibrant shades. Golden colors you can practically taste. An endless stretch of powdery pink sand. Rainbow vessels riding gentle waves. A Technicolor dream just bursting at the seams. With ever-changing hues and views. But no fail, always a whole lot of fun.
For your hospital chemical storage, classroom interior design, school furniture storage units, fume cupboards for school, hospital system, please get in touch with Love Module at info@lovemodule.com or visit our website at www.lovemodule.com. Welcome back, and you are still watching us live here in the Filipinos world. The Philippines slipped 14 spots in a global corruption index as released by the Transparency International, which said a staggering number of countries are showing little to no improvement in tackling corruption. In the Corruption Perceptions Index, or CPI, the Philippines was tied with El Salvador, Nepal, Eswatini, and Zambia for 113th place out of 180 countries and territories. It pointed out that in the Asia-Pacific region performs only marginally better than the global average, despite it being often seen as an engine for the global economy in terms of political integrity and governance. Given these issues, it comes out as no surprise that vibrant economic powers like China, Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, and others continue to struggle to tackle corruption. Hello, Bong.
Yeah. Well, in the Philippines, the thriving types of corruption cases are not far from those have been identified in the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, or UNCAC, or UNCAC, such as bribery, kickbacks, abuse of function, influence peddling, and illicit enrichment. Misbehavior by a public official, while it may not involve a taking of government funds or public property, is also considered as a violation of the Code of Conduct, as it connotes negligence of duty for personal gain. Binbaksha, for example, involving former President Benigno Aquino III, Health Secretary Janet Garin, and Budget Secretary and Budget Management Secretary Florencio Abad, for the launching of the mass vaccination campaign in the 2016 that led to the reports of several children dying from various complications allegedly attributed to dengue vaccine. And 2018, tourism advertisement controversy also is involving former Tourism Secretary Wanda Tulfo, Teo, and the Teo's brothers, Ben and Erwin Tulfo, for the 60 million worth of advertisements that the tourism department had placed with the state-run television and aired over a public service program produced by Bitag Media Unlimited.
And in 2018, Bureau of Customs drug smuggling scandal involving former Customs Commissioner Isidro La Peña and other officials for smuggling the 11 billion worth of methamphetamine, locally known as shabu, which was discovered inside the magnetic lifters in a warehouse in General Mariano Alvarez, Cavite. And in 2020, the Pastillas bribery scandal involved several officials of the Bureau of Immigration in the scheme in which mass numbers of Chinese nationals were escorted through the immigration process in exchange for 10,000s of pesos for each applicant, which totaled to an estimated of 40 billion pesos. This, and among other political scandals and corruptions, are faces that paint Philippines with lower trust from foreign countries. Bong, are you there?
Yeah, join us here in the Filipinos world today. The corruption buster, no other than Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs in the Department of Interior Local Government, Honorable Martin B. Dino, live from Manila, Philippines. Maayong hapon, sir, and welcome to the Filipino world.
Secretary, your audio, is it on?
Okay, maayong hapon, Bong, and of course our beautiful co-host, no. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me here. Dahil bago ako naging Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs, nandito muna ako sa sa Subic. Ako yung nilagay ni Presidente as a chairman. You will notice kung ano yung nandun sa kakaliwa na, this one, Volunteer Against Crime and Corruption. Lagi kong dala yan. Kaya pagdating ko dito sa DILG, ito naman ang aking see? Dala ko naman ang Volunteer Against Crime and Corruption.
Right.
Since the start, nang napunta ko sa sa Subic, talagang pinanindigan ko yung advocacy namin ni Chairman Dante Jimenez na kung saan siya naman ang nailagay bilang Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission. Kamukha niyan, doon sa Subic, bago ako nalipat dito sa DILG, lahat ng mga key official ng SBMA ay kinasuhan ko sa ombudsman. Dahil napaka-importante nung ating Commission on Audit. Kaya nating tugunan ang mga problema, our problem with regards to anti-corruption in this country. Kaya lang kailangan maging firm tayo to file cases against those corrupt government official, kahit sino sila. And on my own little way during the time I stint in Subic, lahat yan sinampahan ko ng kaso sa ombudsman. Kaya lang siyempre, ang malungkot dito, I hope na ang ombudsman ngayon ay umaandar na ngayon, hindi kamukha nung araw na meron tinatawag na parking. Ibig sabihin, ang tagal kumilos ng hustisya yan sa ombudsman. Pagkatapos, nung nalipat ako dito sa DILG, ang unang-unang tinanong sa akin ay bakit ako nandito. And of course, ang unang-unang concern ko dito is fight against illegal drugs. Kung matatandaan nyo, nagkaroon tayo ng BADAC, Barangay Anti-Drugs Abuse Council, na kung saan 16 na barangay captain agad ang kinasuhan natin. Doon pa lang sa mga barangay na hindi nagtayo o hindi nakapagbuo ng BADAC. Doon pa lang. At ngayon, ang BADAC ay masasabi ko na ito, kailangan may functionality. Kaya nga ako, sabi ko nga, ayoko na yung nakikita na you are entering into a drug-free and drug-cleared barangay. Tinanong ko yung mga tao, talaga bang drug-free na dito sa barangay nyo? Opo, USEC. Si Kapitan at saka si Kagawad, nagsasyabu na rin. Kasi, parang tinuldukan mo na yung ating fight against illegal drugs. Pag sinabi mo na itong barangay na to ay drug-free at drug-cleared, tandaan nyo, every day, there is a new pusher. Every day, there is a new drug user. Kaya dapat functionality, anong ibig sabihin yan? Every day, kumikilos ang Anti-Drug Abuse Council ng kada barangay sa buong Pilipinas. Kaya ganun din sa anti-corruption. Kaya dito, hindi pa huli. Kayang-kaya pa natin gawin yan basta't ang kanya-kanyang ahensya ng pamahalaan ay tutugunan nila yung kanilang mandato. Kamukha ako. Nakita nyo, Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs. Pag-upo namin dito, Manila Bay Cleanup, lahat ng hindi naglinis, nag-utos kami na every weekend, kailangan para maproteksyonan natin ang ating kalikasan, may batas. Republic Act 9003. Just imagine itong batas na to, 20 years na. Tapos hindi pa na-i-implement. Implementation ng kulang dito sa bansa natin. Ano nakalagay sa Section 48, Section 49, Section 50. Just imagine ang nakalagay dyan sa paragraph 1. Sino man ang magtapon ng basura sa kanal, karsada, estero, dalampasigan, ilog, Section 49. Ikaw ay magbabayad ng 300 to 1,000 at ikaw ay magko-community service 1 day to 15 days. Na-implement ba yan ng ating gobernador? Na-implement ba yan ng ating mga mayor? Na-implement ba yan ng ating mga kapitan? Just imagine, ang batas na to ay ginawa ng January 21, 2001. 20 years na batas and yet walang implementation. Kaya nga nung nalagay ako dito, ang sabi ko dito sa Manila Bay Cleanup, nung ako'y nilagay, meron tayong monitoring at meron tayong prosecution. Dapat patupad natin ang batas na ginawa ng ating mga mambabatas. Kaya naglagay tayo ng congressman at saka senador para gumawa sila ng batas na naayon sa panahon. Diyos ko po, just imagine how much ang ginagastos ng gobyerno para makagawa ng isang magagandang batas. And yet, ang problema, implementation. Kamukha nga dito sa barangay. Alam nyo ba na ngayon ang barangay, that barangay treasurer can withdraw all the money in the bank without any supporting documents. Ang gagawin lang ni Kapitan ay magbibigay lang siya ng certification na may available fund ang barangay. And liquidation to follow. Pinaimbestigahan ko yan. Nangyari to since 2012. God. Since 2012, ito na ang kalakaran ng mga barangay sa Pilipinas. Si Kapitan, pagdating ng December, magli-liquidate. Maghahanap na ng resibo for liquidation. Kukuha ng contractor. Yung contractor, dala-dala ang barangay council resolution na supposed to be. Pinipirmahan niya during the meeting. Dapat kada meeting ng barangay council, doon mo pipirmahan ang mga proyekto, lalo-lalo na kung may pananalapi. Pero dito, dala-dala ng mga contractor, papipirmahin si Kagawad 1. Kagawad 1, pirma. Tapos, ano mangyayari? Pagkapirma ni Kagawad 1, 100,000. Kagawad 2, 100,000. Kagawad 3, Kagawad 4, hindi ka kakampi ni Kapitan, hindi ka kasali. So, ito yung naging kalakaran. At ito ngayon ang ating nilalabanan. May mga COA report, disallowance. Kaya kung gusto natin talagang matapos ang korupsyon sa barangay, magagawa natin yan kung ang ating mga COA at saka ang ating mga mayor, pag may disallowance ang barangay, wag nang pag-projectan yan. Ang malungkot,
Yes.
na tuloy-tuloy pa rin. So, sample pa lang yan, ha? Okay? Sige.
Yes. Magandang usapin sana to Undersecretary Dino, sir, no? Napakalaking hamon to sa opisina niyo po. Na makikita po natin na sa barangay level pa lang, ang corruption ay doon nag-uumpisa. Meron ng corruption na nangyayari, no? So maganda yung sinasabi niyo upon implementation, monitoring, at meron dapat talaga sinasabi niyo na kailangan may mapaparusahan. Kasi pag wala pang napaparusahan, tuloy-tuloy ang kalakalan. So yan ang maging habon po natin na Secretary. Good luck to you po, Secretary. Well, before anything else, Secretary Dino, sir, your department has come updates on the travel rules regarding the travel authority from the PNP and the medical certificate from the LGU office are no longer required for travel after IATF MTID approved the harmonized national travel protocols for land, sea, and air recommended by the Department of Interior and Local Government. Well, sir, maaari niyo bang may paliwanag sa mga tagapanood natin ng Filipinos World at sa buong bayan at kababayan natin ngayon kung anong ibig po sabihin nito?
Okay, dahil ang ating bansa ngayon ay nangangailangan na ng pondo. Kailangan na luwagan natin ang ating bansa para naman makapaghanap buhay na ang ating dahil hirap na po tayo sa pandemya. Dahil dito, eto na nga niluwagan natin yung travel pass at saka yung medical certificate. Pero ganun pa man, depende pa rin yan sa receiving province, sa receiving cities at municipalities. Dahil sila ang nakakaalam kung ano ang init o kung ano ang level ng kanilang sa kanilang mga kanya-kanyang lugar. Aalamin din natin kung ano ang mga nire-require ng ang receiving o yung pupuntahan mo na o uuwian mo na probinsya o syudad. So, again, kahit na niluwagan ito ng Interagency Task Force, depende pa rin yan dun sa pananaw ng ating mga LGU.
Maraming salamat po sa punto na yun, Secretary, Undersecretary Dino, sir. So meaning po, nasa level pa rin ng mga LGUs, PLGUs at DLGUs natin, kung ano yung degree ng pandemya.
Correct.
Doon sila magbibigay ng certification na sinasabi under the new guidelines.
Tama yan. Tama yan. At saka pati doon sa ating mga tourist destination. Dahil ito mga naapektuhan, tignan din natin kung ano mga protocol na inire-require ng ating mga receiving tourist destination at para ma-observe natin yung tinatawag na social distancing, wearing face mask, wearing face shield. Pero dyan na nga, nakatalaga na rin dyan na pwede na rin na magdala ng bata pagka pamilya. So, may kanya-kanyang requirements pa rin ang ating mga tourist destination.
Tourist destination. Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary, for that information. So to all our kababayans, you may download staysafephilippine.ph for more information on this issue. Well, Secretary Junior Sir, bilang isang opisyal ng gobyerno, kayo po ay nasa high level po ng ating pamahalaan, no? Especially under the DILG. Kayo po ay hinikaya sa maayos at patunay na pamamaraan, no, sa pagservisyo ng ating bansa. Ano po sa personal at na paningin nyo ang maging adikain kaloob ng inyong departamento, lalo na nakatutok sa mga barangay, para maibsan, if not, we can curb out and combat totally corruption na sinasabi natin systemic na nanamalaganap sa buong bansa natin ngayon, sir?
Kaya nga, sabi ko nga kanina, may kanya-kanya tayong mga opisina. Kamukha ako, Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs. Pagkat sinabi mong barangay, sa akin yan. Pero meron tayong Undersecretary for Local Government. Siya naman ang mahala sa mga gobernador, mayor, tapos mga bukal. So, sa bagay na to, sabi ko nga na ako, I will make sure na lahat ng mga barangay captain, barangay kagawad, secretary, treasurer, kahit mga barangay tanod, mga lupon na umaabuso sa pwesto. Ngayon lang nagkaroon ang DILG ng bantay korupsyon. Ngayon lang nagkaroon ng DILG ng bantay kaagapay na kung saan meron na kayong pagsusumbungan. Pag nagsumbong kayo sa Malacanang 188 pagkadong 8888 pinadadala dito sa opisina ko pag barangay. At within 72 hours pinadadalan ko ng summon si kapitan o sino mang barangay official to answer yung mga reklamo laban sa kanila. Pagka ikaw ay hindi sumagot, bibigyan kita ng final notice at pag hindi ka pa rin sumagot, that's the time, magbibigay ako ng recommendation dun sa nagreklamo para idemanda ka na sa Office of the Ombudsman. At minsan, nakita ko mabigat ang kaso, ako mismo ang pumipirma kamukha ng nangyari dun sa 89 na mga nasuspindi. Ako po kapirma sa complaint sa Ombudsman.
Maganda po yun. Maganda pakinggan niyo, sir. No? Secretary Dino, sir, maliban po doon sa 888 natin na nakalad doon sa Office of the President, meron po tayong hotlines under your office to accommodate all this type of complaints of corruption in the barangay level?
Correct. Meron tayong meron tayong kani-kaniyang DILG office. Meron kaming regional office sa 17 rehiyon. Meron kaming provincial office sa DILG. Meron kaming city at saka municipal office. Ngayon, pagkadating naman dito sa opisina ko, I use my own cellphone number, 0917-533-5765. Meron din kaming mga hotline dito at mamaya ay ibibigay ko sa inyo. No? Ito yung tinatawag namin na DILG Emergency Operation Center.
Magandang salamat po, Secretary USEC Dino, sir. No? So, sa pagpapatuloy natin programa, gusto rin namin tanongin, sir, sa level po ninyo. Ang DILG ay maraming pamamaraan, as nabanggit niyo po kanina, sa pagpapatupad ng mga estruktura, paano po ba i-monitor ang mga korupsyon, red tape, bribery, utang na loob system, at iba pa sa barangay level, sa iba't iba nating DLGU or LGU, no, sa buong bansa. So paano ito ini-enforce ng ating ng inyong opisina hanggang sa mabababa na antas ng ating ng bayan hanggang doon sa LGU level, sir, at sa national level po? Ano yung mga ginagawa at ano pong uri na mga sanksyon ang pinaparusa po natin sa kanila, USEC Secretary, sir? Ano, Secretary, sir?
Na tayo sa mga pagrereklamuhan. Pagka ikaw ay nagreklamo sa iyong gobernador, mayor at punong barangay o yung mga opisyales ng gobyerno magmula sa LGU, pwede kayong mag-file dito sa Office of the Ombudsman. Ngayon, meron kayong pipirmahan dyan na ang tinatawag yung forum shopping. Hindi ka pwedeng magreklamo sa Ombudsman tapos magrereklamo ka na naman sa ibang pagkahin na desisyon.
Okay, sir.
So, pwede din tayong mag-file ng complaint. Pagka halimbawa nirereklamo nyo ay ang governor, pwede kayong mag-file ng complaint sa Office of the President. Pagka naman ang nirereklamo nyo, Mayor, pwede kayong mag-file ng complaint sa Office of the Governor. Pagka naman nirereklamo nyo ay barangay captain, pwede kayong mag-file ng complaint sa sanggunian. Meron tayong sanggunian na bawat syudad at munisipyo. Pero sa ngayon nga, pinaiimbestigahan ko din dahil madami nagrereklamo naman sa akin ng mga kapitan at kagawad na pinupolitika naman sila nitong sanggunian. Na kung dahil malapit na ang eleksyon, pinapahila ng kaso itong mga kapitan at kagawad at dahil sa merong ang desisyon ay pwedeng gawin ng City Council, naaabuso ito. Kaya hindi naman ako papayag kung ang mga barangay official ko'y masisipag, pagkatapos ipupolitikahin lang. So, ingat-ingat tayo yung mga konsyel dyan. Pero talagang pagka naman na-akusado ang mga barangay official, ako nang mismo nagbo-volunteer na pagka nagdemanda ang ating mga complainant, pati ko co-signatory sa reklamo para pagka naman nakita ng Office of Ombudsman na nandyan ang DILG at nakasuporta, agad-agad ay pwede nang patawan ng preventive suspension. Tandaan nyo, hindi DILG ang nagsususpinde. Ang Office of the Ombudsman o kaya ang ating City Council. Oo. Hindi, bago pumunta ng Sandigan, punta muna. Oh.
Okay, sir. Alright. Maganda po yan. Salamat. Maraming salamat po, Undersecretary D. Sir, may isa pang tanong, ay pangdagdag lang. Well, right now, in this era of millennium, where digital age is on board right now, especially among our youth, so, do we have already some program? May mga programa na ba tayo under your office na we can fast-track the monitoring of these red tape, corruption practices in the barangay level? Para kasi marami rin tayong narinig siya na live siya na sa DLG group, pero hindi pa ho na-actionan. So, how is that, sir?
Kasi ganito, no? Marami naman nagko-complain sa atin, puro lang sa Facebook, sa email. Ang susunod dito ay elected.
Yes, sir.
Official. Kailangan meron namang affidavit. Dahil unang process yan, di ba?
That's right. Tama po, sir.
Ay, ito na nga ang aking offer eh. Pag nag-affidavit kayo, pati na nga ako, pipirma. Pag ako na talagang merong probable cause. Di ba?
Yes, alright.
Panindigan natin yung ating complaint na sa ating nirereklamo. At nasa kayo, no? Na pagka yung reklamo nyo, ay meron kaming case build-up. Nakita nyo naman, di ba? Naging Volunteer Against Crime and Corruption na chairman ako tsaka president. Wala akong almusal kundi dimandahan. Hapunan, tanghalian. Kaya kung sa case build-up lang, sanay na sanay tayo dyan. Kaya nakita nyo naman, sa 100 na pinailan natin ang kaso sa social amelioration, 89 ang napatawa ng 6-month suspension habang dinidinig ng ombudsman o iniimbestigahan yung kaso nila. So, sa ngayon, maganda na ang level natin at thank you sa mga millennial natin, dahil ngayon malaking bagay ang Facebook. Dahil ngayon, pwede natin gamitin itong mga video, lalo na sa social distancing. Pagka mayroong pasabong dyan, kaya lang ito lang tip ko. Pagka kukuha kayo ng sabong, lagyan nyo ng dyaryo. Kasi yan ang magpapatunay na habang kinukunan nyo itong pasabong na to, yung date na yun, na nakadate dun sa dyaryo. Kaya ngayon, isabihin nyo lang at patatawag ko si Kapitan. Pag i-explaining ko, pag hindi niya ako nasagot ng tama, dalawa tayong magko-complain sa kanya para dun sa social distancing.
Well, maganda po yan, sir. Maganda. So, ngayon po ba, may mga nakakasuhan at nakukulong ba ng mga kapitan as far as corruption is concerned?
Marami.
Hindi lang hanggang sa level na kaso, sir, at hindi suspension lang. Ibig sabihin, yung nakulong at pusasan talaga. Kaya na po ba, sir?
Hindi, yun na nga, sabi ko nga dapat hindi lang matanggal. Dapat makulong. Kasi unang-una, kung matatanggal lang yan, magiging recidivist. It's high time for this.
Baka mananalo pa ulit yan.
Natin. Kasi tignan mo, pag ang kaso ng conversation ng public fund, falsification ng public document, dapat may kulong na yan. Kaya nga dapat, lalo pagka yung ninakaw mo pera ng gobyerno. So, ito ang aking minumungkahi ngayon dahil alam niyo naman si Presidente, pag nagsalita yan, pag sinabi niya kilos agad lahat yan. And I hope na this time, may makita tayong mapusasan talaga.
Okay, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Makukulong.
you.
At kung makapiyansa man, dapat hindi na makatakbo ulit. Yes, Ma'am Agnes, please.
Isa pa yan, ha? Pagka mayroong perpetual disqualification na sinabi ng office, ito naman ang challenge ko sa COMELEC. Bakit nyo pinababayaan na makapag-file pa ng candidacy itong mga ito? Kamukha nito, meron ng desisyon na siya ay nakasuhan. May perpetual disqualification. Biro mo nanalo, nakaupo pa ngayon.
Nanalo. Dapat
ito SK, overage. Biro mo overage, niloko niya yung COC. Dapat ito makulong dahil unang-una, niloko niya yung COC. Tapos nung nanalo, ginamit niya pa ang pera ng gobyerno. Ako yan ang panawagan ko.
Double kill tayo doon, sir.
Oo, correct.
So, marami talaga tayo, pero marami pa tayong pag-usapan dito as far as corruption na nakaugat na, hindi lang sa national level, sa regional level, hanggang barangay level. At I really hope and pray na tulungan tayo ng ang opisina ng ating pinakamahal at pinakamasipag na Undersecretary Dino and Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs of the Department of Interior Local Government. Maraming salamat po, Sir Dino, sir. Well, the Philippines ranked 14 among the 42 countries in the Asia-Pacific region. And its overall score is well above the regional and world averages like Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, above the Philippines. And the Philippines scored 34 out of the 100 in terms of perceived levels of public sector corruption according to experts and businessmen. This was lower down the country score of 36 in the CPI for Corruption Perception Index in 2018. Where it ranked 99. Well, how do we see, therefore, we can counter or combat corruption that will promote the right for the Filipino people down to the barangay level, sir?
I hope, yung natitirang taon ni Presidente, yung natitira niyang more than 1 year, I hope na may makita tayo na makulong dahil talagang na yung binanggit ninyo kanina, ito yung nagkaroon ng dungis, na dahil dapat yan, yung mga ahensya ng pamahalaan, kamukha ng DOJ, dapat ito ang nagpapalakas ng kaso para yung mga nakasuhan natin, yung mga lalo-lalo na yung nag-viral, dapat yan, kamukha ng lahat ng sinabi natin pastillas, dapat nakamonitor yan at kung ano yung nangyari sa kaso, ipinapaalam sa mamamayan. May interview ako, sabi ko nga, hanggat walang nakukulong na senador,
yes,
governor, mayor, punong barangay, magpapatuloy ang korupsyon sa Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na sa mga ahensya ng pamahalaan. Pero kung may nakikita tayong mayat maya ay may pinoposasan, hindi lamang yung mga rank and file, kung hindi yung mismong malalaki o yung mga matataas ang pwesto sa gobyerno, palagay ko, magiging malaking deterrent ito. At makakaahon ang Pilipinas sa listahan ng mga korap na bansa dito sa ating mundo.
All right.
Yes, Ma'am Agnes. Yes po. Sige po, go ahead.
Okay. The discussion is very, very interesting, and I would like to put that it's a long discussion. And thank you so much, USEC Martin Dino, for explaining to us that your department is currently instilling the implementation to this corrupt officials, especially down from the barangay level, then up to the national. Okay, well, thank you so much. Secretary Dino, thank you for your time. Or USEC Dino, I'm supposed to say secretary, but maybe who knows, you could become secretary later on. Thank you so much for your time and for gracing here in the Filipinos world, explaining to us what's the function of your department with regards to combating corruption within the Philippines. Magandang hapon po sa iyo at saludo kami sa inyo.
Thank you very much. And my last word.
Yes.
Wala kang magnakaw sa gobyerno kung walang Pilipino na papabaya ang may magnakaw sa gobyerno. Kaya lahat ng ito ay nakasalalay sa atin. Kung gusto nating mahinto ang pagnanakaw ng mga taong gobyerno, tayo namang mamamayan ang matutong magsumbong at magbantay sa mga ginagawa nitong mga corrupt government official. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po kayo.
Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Live from Manila, Philippines, the Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs, USEC Martin Dino. Bong, we will see you in the finale. We will be right back.
Bahagi sa digital bayanihan laban sa COVID-19 gamit ang staysafe.ph. Ang staysafe.ph ay isang community-driven contact tracing, health condition reporting at social distancing system. Paano ba kamo? Bisitahin ang staysafe.ph at mag-register gamit ang iyong mobile number. Huwag mag-alala, safe din ang iyong data dahil sumusunod ang StaySafe sa Data Privacy Act. Pagkatapos ay marereport mo na ang health condition mo at ng iyong pamilya gamit ang StaySafe Health Checklist. Kung ikaw ay app user, manonotify ka rin sa mga lugar na may positive, probable, or suspected COVID-19 cases. Sa pamamagitan nito, makakaiwas ka at ang iyong pamilya sa pagpunta sa mga lugar na ito. O di kaya'y paalalahanan sila na maging mas maingat. May mga health tips at instructions din mula sa ating mga frontliners at healthcare professionals para matulungan ka sakaling ikaw o ang iyong pamilya ay makaranas ng sintomas ng COVID-19. Ang iyong data ay ma-upload sa isang secure database na ma-access ng ating gobyerno, lokal na pamahalaan at frontliners upang matulungan ang mga registrant na maaaring COVID-19 positive at pag-contact trace sa kanilang mga nakasalamuha. Ang mga LGUs naman ay makakapag-monitor real-time ng mga COVID-19 cases sa inyong komunidad. Makakatulong ito upang makapagtalaga ng resources at assistance sa inyong barangay. Kailangan natin ang tulong ng bawat isa. Kaya nating mapigilan ang pagkalat pa ng COVID-19. Basta tayo ay sama-sama. Kaya tara na, digital bayanihan gamit ang staysafe.ph. Stay at home, stay healthy, stay safe.
And you're still watching us live here in the Filipinos world. Shout out to Mr. Rick D, Elden John Bayaon, Mr. Mongarido, Cecilia A. Chavia, Miss Maluca Inya, and yeah, and to some others while watching us right now here in the Filipinos world. The Philippines is one of the most dynamic economies in the East Asia Pacific region, with increasing urbanization, a growing middle class, and a large and young population. The Philippines' economic dynamism is rooted in strong consumer demand, supported by a vibrant labor market and robust remittances. Business activities are buoyant, with notable performance in the services sector, including the business process outsourcing, real estate, and finance and insurance industries. Join us here in the Filipinos world, the chief economist of PricewaterhouseCoopers in West Africa, and is one of the preeminent voices on Nigerian economy. A graduate of Doctor of Philosophy, major in economics from Harvard University, and an MA holder in philosophy and politics from Oxford University in the UK, a computer science and mathematics graduate from University of Ontario, Canada, the World Economist, live from London, United Kingdom, Dr. Andrew S. Nevin. Good afternoon, Dr. Nevin.
Good afternoon, Ag. It's a great honor to be here on the Filipinos world.
How are you? Welcome back again after.
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah, after I think 2 months. 2 months. You look fresh. Okay. Tell us what's the current trend in the global economy and how do this you see it affects Philippines economy post-pandemic?
Thank you for that. First, let me begin by just paying a bit of a tribute to Undersecretary Dino and all the good work he's doing. I mean, I think the fact that I'm actually very optimistic globally on the corruption issue when you have public officials that sort of take this on. I also think that technology is going to make it harder and harder for corrupt officials to do their acts, and I also have a lot of faith in young people. I think the younger generation is not going to tolerate this, and as we have technology and more kind of open democracies, I think it's going to be harder and harder to be corrupt. And finally, we have to admit that a lot of the reason this corruption happens is because you have financial centers offshore that facilitate it. So there needs to be more and more pressure on these financial centers to not participate in these activities. But I mean, we can paint a gloomy story, but I think the direction of travel is very positive on the corruption issue globally, and I think Undersecretary Dino is doing is fantastic. So it was great to have him on the show. In terms of where the global economy is at as we sort of get into 2021, I mean, I think there's a number of big issues that make it highly uncertain and sort of difficult for people to manage, and they need to manage it in a flexible way. But let me highlight kind of a few issues that are really critical for the Philippines on that. Let me start sort of at geopolitical level. We've had a change in President Biden. I think the last time I was on the show was before the inauguration, and he certainly set a new course on that, but we're definitely, as I think I predicted back at the last show, we're definitely in a world where there's a geopolitical conflict between the United States and China, and economic conflict between these two countries, and of course continuing issues around Huawei and other Chinese technology companies participating in the West. And of course the Philippines is kind of caught between two worlds. I mean, it's an ally of the United States, a strong economic partner of the United States, but it's in the China backyard. And I think that's going to be one of the most difficult issues for the Philippines to manage. I think at a global economic level, we're going to continue to struggle with these very low interest rates. I mean, we've unfortunately, people, they purport to want to believe in the market, but after the great financial crisis, we've had these ultra low interest rate policies coming out of Europe and out of the United States. And it's become feeding on itself, this massive money creation. People who follow these things closely might have seen the big drop in the U.S. dollar against many currencies as they print more and more money. And this year, highly volatile U.S. markets on that. And it's just difficult to see how to exit this. And I'm not sure the economy functions properly when you have such low interest rates. And of course, it's going to rebound back onto the Philippines on that. But at the same time, I do think that the Philippines' strengths are going to be very valuable in the new world. So we have a lot more confidence in being able to work remotely and people be. So I think we discussed last time. The Philippines, of course, has a big diaspora, very successful diaspora. They remit a lot of money to it. It really is a big part. It's a foundation of the economy. But more and more jobs are going to be able to be done remotely. And in that case, I think the Philippines is going to be a big beneficiary of all this, where people can actually remain in the Philippines and do those jobs from the Philippines and not necessarily have to leave their families and travel with all of those challenges. I know that you're a big supporter of the Filipino diaspora community in many countries of the world and try to help them in some of their challenges. But I think that this is going to really be a big factor that more of the jobs can actually be done from the Philippines, and the Philippines is very well positioned to do that. The fourth issue I just want to put on the table that, I mean, the Philippines is very well aware of, but cannot be overstated how critical it is, of course, is climate change. And of course, there are parts of the world where there are deniers of climate change, but the reality is the Philippines has been a victim of climate change, as we've seen in the last few years with the number of super cyclone events in the Philippines, the devastation and destruction and deaths that's caused. So the Philippines needs to be kind of at the forefront, but I really feel, looking globally, and of course what's happening with young people, is that there is going to be in the 2020s such a massive change in the way that we conduct ourselves, the way we produce energy, the way we produce plastic, well, hopefully stop producing single-use plastic. And again, I think the Philippines needs to both be an advocate for it, but also adjust its economy to that. So those are four big issues, I think, that as we come into 2021, the Philippines needs to cope with. And of course, we have really a very difficult, in the headline GDP terms, the Philippines dropped almost 10% last year and is poised to perhaps rebound 10% on that. But 10%, it's not the only country. The UK, much of Europe, South Africa is kind of in the similar situation. But of course, that's been very painful from a headline GDP, the unemployment, reduction in income, that's been very painful. So we do need a rebound in that. So that's maybe 5 big issues I'll put on the table for you. You tell me which one you want to go deeper into.
Well, maybe more likely to have this, there's there's the light at the end of the tunnel with regards to with the vaccine that in the countries like the Philippines, and right now we are already starting vaccinating people across the country. How do you see this unfolding, and what are the implications for the global economy and for countries like Philippines as well?
Right. So I think, I mean, obviously it's been very, very good news in general with the vaccination program in many parts of the world. I'm in the UK, and we've made a lot of progress here. And there's countries like Israel that are further advanced. And of course, Asia is well positioned, excuse me, to make progress. I mean, it's absolutely critical on that. So we need to continue to drive that. I think the one worry, of course, and I'm not a physician, but the one worry is we keep having these new variants. So I think that people can expect in 2021 that we're going to continue to have restricted travel. So the travel industry certainly is also critical to the Philippines, is going to continue to really suffer. I mean, certainly in the first half of the year, the complexity of travel is so high. Many people are just going to choose to stay home. So, I mean, but the truth is, all pandemics eventually come to an end, and let's hope that this sort of comes to an end. We don't get new variants on that, and we'll kind of be able in the back half of this year to return to sort of more normal situation. But it really raises a very fundamental question, I think, for everyone in the world, but also for the Philippines, is we use this term build back better. Now, in the Philippines, I mean, we've had good headline growth, good GDP growth for a long period of time, really from 2000 to 2021. We've had increasing prosperity in material terms, in GDP terms. But, you know, I'm very skeptical, to be honest, if GDP is always a good thing. It depends a little bit on the income distribution. It depends on the sorts of things that people consume. And ultimately, I mean, you know, we're not pursuing GDP. We're pursuing, are people having a good life? Are they flourishing? Are they connected with other people? So the Build Back Better phrase is used to sort of think, we need to think beyond GDP. So obviously we need to think about climate change and biodiversity loss, but we also need to think about, does GDP measure what really matters? And there's been a lot of thinking on that, but to be honest, I'm a little bit worried as I see how things have evolved in the last few months, certainly in the developed world, that this Build Back Better idea is not sort of taking root. And I would like all countries, certainly, you know, I'm involved in Africa, as you know, to take more thinking about this opportunity to rebuild the economy in a way that is more inclusive, that is really prosperity for everyone. And, you know, some of the issues that I think are very critical coming out of COVID-19 is it really has highlighted the issues of mental health, as we've had people around the globe have struggled with that. But when we say struggling with mental health, people put a negative on it. I like to put a more positive spin on it, which is what we really need to do is nurture brain capital. Brain capital is obviously the absence of mental health, but it's also connectedness, mental strength, lack of dementia, creativity, emotional intelligence, resilience, ideas like that. And I think if there's a positive direction here, it's going to be that we really start to think more about brain capital and then relate that to the kind of policies we have and the kind of economy we want to build. But if we just try to build back an economic machine to maximize GDP growth, whether it's the Philippines or another country or around the world, I think that's going to be a big mistake and a big missed opportunity. And to be honest, it's not going to lead us to a good place over the next decade. The other thing I'll just add is on this climate change issue, I think that it is very clear that all finance is in the 2020s is going to be sustainable finance. So, you know, we have this idea when you're in the investment world or the finance world, we use this term sustainable finance as if it's a little niche of finance. You have this big financial world and this little sustainable finance. But that very rapidly you can see that there isn't going to be any investment in something that's not sustainable. It's one reason you see oil price going up. So why is oil price going up when the demand is quite subdued? It's because, I mean, people want to, certainly the investors want to get out of oil, so they're not going to invest. So I actually see a scenario where as we transition out of oil, you're going to continue to see very high oil prices, but it's not going to lead to people investing more in oil, because we know we need to move to renewables. We know we need to decarbonize on that. And the Philippines, as I said, is a victim of climate change. One of the biggest victims around the world. It really needs to be at the forefront of the sustainable finance drive.
Right. Very challenging, because given this situation, the S&P Global Platts still see Philippine economy will recover post-COVID near to 10% this year. Do you think it's likely to happen?
Well, I mean, a recovery of 10%, of course, just takes back to the size of the 2019 economy, right? So if you think about in the Philippines, I think the population growth is about a little over 1%. So in those 2 years, population would have grown, I think, about 2.5%. So you've rebounded back to where you were. So you're still, in GDP terms, still a little bit poorer than 2019. So I think it's quite possible. I think a lot of countries are going to kind of bounce back to where they were in 2019, but still be a little bit poorer per capita. I mean, people are very adaptable, right? So if you had said in March of 2020 that hundreds of millions of people would figure out how to work in a completely different way, you would have said that was impossible. And to be honest, at the time, I was skeptical that certainly the private sector would be able to adapt. But we've been surprised at how adaptive people are. So you look at every human endeavor, obviously the corporate world, financial services, even physical services, being able to deliver things with no touching, business processing outsourcing, being more flexible about that is, of course, going to continue to grow. But even things like entertainment, the way people have delivered that, people have been so flexible. So even though the tourist industry, physically moving people, has really been hit, I can perfectly see kind of looking in the Philippines and having a strong growth year just to come back to where the Philippines was in GDP terms in 2019. So I don't think that prediction is overly optimistic.
Okay, right there. Okay, thank you so much. And you take care of yourself. Live from London, United Kingdom, the World Economist, Dr. Andrew S. Nevin. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Agnes.
Okay. Right. Time now is around 4:55 in the afternoon, and time is brought to you by RP and DXKO Teleradio, Rotary Club of Calamba, 78 Red Diamond Incorporated, Team Humanity International, ACO OFW, Barangay OFW, OFW Global Coalition and Development, OFW Ready. We will be right back.
It's you who fills the emptiness in me, changes everything I see when I know I've got you with me.
Welcome back, and you're still watching us live here in the Filipinos world. I'd like to thank, of course, our supporter, Mr. Dennis Arca, for facilitating the guesting of USEC Martin Dino. Thank you so much, Dennis. Bong, are you still around?
Yeah, I'm still around. I'm just hanging on here. Yeah.
Do you want to say, to greet someone and to say thank you?
Well, I don't have anything to say, but all I have right now, what I have in mind is thank you, our host here, Miss Agnes, for inviting me to co-host to the show. And of course, I have to thank the staff of the Team Humanity and the entire staff of Filipinos World. So thank you so much for this invite. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to more co-hosting with you. And in fact, I'm trying to be on board and talk more projects with this through this platform later on. Thank you, Ma'am Agnes.
Thank you so much, Sir Bong. And Mr. Richard Bong Anyo will be guesting us in the Filipinos World on March 27 as he will discuss about investment and opportunities, of course, in Mindanao. So stay tuned for that one. Okay, Bong, do you want to do the honor in telling our viewers?
Well, sa tanan natong mga taga-subaybay, thank you so much again, no? And then we look forward to have with you on board, and more views for Filipinos World. And then you may also, by the way, for your suggestions and feedbacks, please get in touch via our email address, thefilippinosworld@gmail.com, or you may also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube channel, The Filipinos World. Thank you, Ma'am Agnes.
If we wish to thank all our guests for today, Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs under the Department of Interior Local Government, USEC Martin Dino, and the World Economist based in London, United Kingdom, Dr. Andrew S. Nevin. Next week will be another episode as we will celebrate the Women's History Month and International Women's Day with our guests, the Mayor of Liloan, Cebu, Mayor Cristina Frasco, and the woman commercial pilot, Miss Cristina Decena. They will discuss on recognizing the strength and wisdom of women in service. So please stay tuned with that. Yeah, Bong, you want to read something?
Yeah, I would like to, again, thank you. And then sa tanan ng mga kababayan, we're celebrating Women's Month today. Mabuhay ang kababayan, mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Mabuhay. And on the other hand, we would like the televiewers of the Filipinos to know that the Philippines, in order for the Philippines to boost economic growth and to continue more economic freedom, the government needs to focus on the country's lagging index indicators related to the rule of law and regulatory environment. President Duterte's 2019 veto of a bill to make labor laws more rigid was a good sign, as was the indictment of the former chief of the Philippine National Police on corruption charges. This more to continue that Philippines is a country unfaced with corruption to lift its status as one of Asia's economic tiger from those long years when this was looked up by the world. The Filipinos World would like to thank our executive producer, Mr. Paul Markoviches, the station manager, of course, Ms. Jean Sorujejos, the technical team, Engineer Jong Sandigo and Engineer Ernie Banson, and of course, the social media team, the Mount Mom, Kaagapay ako ng OFW, Reggie Randan, Miss Mai Garcia, Mr. Naz Farberganyo, and to all supporters and viewers of the Filipinos World. And of course, the Filipinos World program is brought to you by Trinity Holistic Wellbeing Incorporated.
Well, for this we say, we bring Filipinos closer to the world, we bring the world closer to the Filipinos, and Filipinos closer to each other.
This has been your TFW Agnes, along with the Executive Director of Team Humanity International, Mr. Richard Bong Anyo, wishing everyone a blessed weekend. Bong, thank you so much for gracing here in the Filipinos World, and it is our pleasure really to be the guest co-host here. I look forward to see you. Stay safe, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.